What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Another video means another dopamine high because I had to buy something that feels something. And today we're back at it with another review. For today's review, we are taking a look at NECA's Samurai Predator from Predator Hunting Ground. And this is actually our second Hunting Ground figure from NECA. The first one being the Alpha Predator, which I did review 3 years ago, which it doesn't feel like 3 years ago. It feels weird. Damn. 3 years. But regardless, hopefully in the future we can get more figures from Hunting Ground out of NECA because there's a ton of cool Predator designs in that game, which the Samurai Predator is one of those cool designs. So at any point during or after the video you realize you want to pick up this figure for yourself, you can at 3 locations I was able to find. The go-to safe answer is NECA's online store for $39.99, and then for a whopping $45.99 there is Entertainment Earth and the Big Bad Toy Store. So if you're willing to put out some extra money and or NECA just doesn't have the Samurai Predator in stock, you have those options, and links will be in the description of the video. So with that all now said, hopefully in the future we can get more Predator Hunting Ground figures, and let's get into the Samurai Predator. So when it comes to the packaging for this figure, it's pretty simple, pretty underwhelming compared to other figures. We have the logo with a portrait of the character, we have the logo on the top, and then on the side we have the logo yet again with that same portrait just resized for the side of the packaging, and it's the same exact on the other side. So again, nothing too crazy going on here for this figure. And then moving over to the back of the packaging, we have some photos of the Samurai Predator, you know, the title on the bottom, and a brief description of everything that is included with our figure. So we get a nice little assortment of accessories that we will obviously go over later in the video. And then opening the front, we have a nice big portrait of our figure, and obviously there's the figure with everything included, and it seems that everything is, so very nice. And with all that said, let's open up this bad boy. So right outside of the box, the Samurai Predator is looking good to no one's surprise. NECA is known for doing really good work when it comes to the visuals of their figures, especially when it comes to the Predator figures. Predators typically have very busy, very intricate designs with a lot of accessories and whatnot going on, and this figure is no exception. And if you've seen any of my older Predator reviews, you know that I can go on and on about how good these figures look, and this figure again is no exception. I could yap for a inappropriate amount of time and make this segment way longer than it needs to, but I'm gonna try and keep this segment as simple as possible, hitting main topics and points. So please forgive me if I am not doing this figure justice. I am trying to spare y'all from hearing my voice any longer than you already have to. So starting off with the armor, undeniably it looks really good. Whoever designed the Samurai Predator for Predator Hunting Grounds, hat off to you or the team that did it, and obviously hats off to NECA for translating the in-game model into figure form, because this figure looks fucking awesome. The armor, I just really love the color scheme of it being mostly made up of red and gold. Obviously there is gray and black thrown in here and there, but the red and the gold just play so well. The gold acts as an accent, allowing for some of the paneling and line work to really pop and shine. Obviously there is parts of the armor where the gold does, you know, take the center of attention and protrude from the plating. And one thing that I also really like throughout the armor is the stitching and symbols that we see. It really gives the armor more, you know, depth and some texture, which is always appreciated. And then obviously there are some finer details on the armor, such as these little symbols, or this symbol on the forearm where the wrist blade is. And obviously there is the wrist detonator. It's got some buttons, it's got the screens, it's got everything you need to blow yourself up, which is great. And there's obviously some straps and some rope to really cater towards that samurai aesthetic. And overall I think the armor just really says Samurai and Predator, which obviously was the goal for the dev team or the art team for Predator Hunting Ground. And I don't really think it needs to be said, but I think the main attention grabber here is the helmet. It just looks awesome. I love the line work for the face mask, really leaning in towards that samurai art style, and then we have the, you know, ornate stuff on top of the helmet, which looks really good. And it's just the perfect blend of samurai and Predator in my opinion. And then obviously there is the plasma cast master, which I typically save for the accessory segment of the video, but this one is actually attached to the figure, so I wanted to at least go over the visuals, and I feel like it's the perfect blend of samurai armor paneling and Predator technology. Obviously, it's a brand new mold for this figure, and overall just looks really good. And then getting into the more exclusively Predator details on this figure, starting off with the iconic Predator fishnets. Obviously, not every Predator that we see comes with these, but this Predator does, and they look pretty good. It's something that we've seen in the Predator line for a while now, and I'd be concerned if NECA started screwing up on it all of a sudden now. And then we get the skin pattern, which is typically unique amongst each Predator, and for the Samurai Predator, we get this kind of dotted pattern, which is pretty cool. And then when it comes to the swappable unmasked head, there's tons of detail to be seen here. NECA really did their best to bring this guy to life, starting off seeing that the skin pattern goes from dotted on the body to striped on the face. There's tons of wrinkles and grooves in his skin to again make him look like he's alive. And then the mandibles, as nasty as they look, are packed with detail. There's all that line work in the gums and the teeth, and those eyes are as piercing as ever and just are full of detail. NECA really knocked it out of the park here. And then probably the last thing I can go over when it comes to this figure is the predlocks. Typically when we get a Predator figure, the predlocks are flowing downwards. They kind of are just, resting in this neutral state. As for the Samurai Predator, he tied up his predlocks like a samurai ties up his hair, and it just looks really good. I love how at the base of the skull, they go upwards towards the band, and then obviously when they protrude out from the band, they look like they're flowing naturally. Nothing seems to be, out of place or looking off. So I think NECA did such a great job at sculpting these tied up predlocks. So moving over to articulation, starting off in the head region, we can rotate the head 360 degrees, and then we can bring the head up and down an alright amount, and then we can also sway the head side to side. And then moving over to the arms, we can rotate the arms up and over 360 degrees, and when it comes to bringing the arm up, we get some alright range, and as we can see, the shoulder plate does kind of conform to this range of motion. Just be mindful when, doing that a lot. The shoulder plate might try and take new shape that it originally wasn't, so again, just be mindful of that. And I just want to make this clear that this applies to both arms. The shoulder plates on the Samurai Predator are not the same on each side. They are different, but the range and the shoulder plates, moving with that range of motion is all the same. And then when it comes to bringing up the arms from this angle, it's not exactly the best. There's again some range, but not a lot. And then when it comes to the tricep bicep area, I would say you'd be able to rotate this part 360 degrees, but the shoulder plates don't really allow that area to do that. I mean, if the shoulder plates weren't there, you'd be able to, like I said, but the range is still really good nonetheless, still allows for, some decent poses with single hand weapons. And then when it comes to the elbow bend, it's pretty alright. We would have definitely been able to get more range out of it if the gauntlets weren't so thick, because the elbows are double jointed on this figure. Just unfortunate that the figure's armor kind of gets in the way. And then when it comes to the gauntlet slash forearm, you can rotate it 360 degrees. And then when it comes to the hand, you can rotate it 360 degrees and rotate the wrist however you please. And then when it comes to the torso for the Samurai Predator, we can rotate it 360 degrees. And then we can get a nice back and forth range of motion with the torso, and we also get some pretty good range swaying the torso side to side as well. And then moving down to the legs, we would be able to rotate the legs 360 degrees if the armor wasn't in the way, but don't worry, the range is still really good nonetheless. And we can actually get some pretty good splittage out of the Samurai Predator. By no means is it a full split, but it is definitely more than halfway, which we want to see. And then we can get a nice pivot out of the legs, which allows for better balancing and poses with our figure. And then when it comes to the knee articulation on this figure, it is very limited. I mean, you can get one of the legs up to like the 90-degree mark, but the Predator has double jointed knees, and you can't really do that because they sculpted the knee pads around the knee joint, and that really affects the range, as you can see. And they could have done this differently. They could have just sculpted the pad part onto the knees and said fuck the straps, or they could have painted the straps like onto the leg rather than giving us, you know, these fully sculpted straps that get in the way. I don't know. I'm just trying to spitball ideas here, but it kind of sucks that the knee articulation on our Predator figure is hindered. And then finally, when it comes to the feet, they can be rotated 360 degrees, and you can bend the ankle however you please. And then when it comes to the plasma caster, you can actually move it back and forth on its base a pretty decent amount, and then you can spin the gun 360 degrees as well. And then you can have the gun and the base. I don't show the base because I'm a fucking idiot, but the base and the gun can go up and down a decent amount for further, you know, aiming of the plasma caster. And kicking off features and accessories, starting off with a feature we've already seen, and that is that the Samurai Predator does come with a swappable head. And then we have swappable hands as well. This is probably the least amount of swappable hands that I've seen on a Predator in recent time. We only get 4 hands, so 2 pairs in total. And we have these generic just open hands, and then we have these closed hands for the weapons included. And for our first weapon included, we get the iconic wrist blades, a staple for most Predator figures. And just like with most wrist blades, it's a simple slide in, slide out function, nothing too crazy here. Then for the second weapon included, we get the combi stick, and we get 3 variations of it included. So for the first variation of the combi sticks, we have the smallest one, which is the closed one, which will probably be used for more neutral and calmer poses with your Samurai Predator. And then the second variation included is this halfway combi stick. I don't know what I would officially call this, but the rod is out a bit more, and I assume this is for when you start displaying your Samurai Predator in those action poses. And then the final variation of the combi stick is when it is fully extended, and obviously this is for when you're, you know, going full send on those action poses for your Samurai Predator. And obviously this is the version of the combi stick that we're most used to seeing. And one thing I want to point out that I'm now just realizing while recording this video is that the design for this combi stick I think is unique to this figure. As far as I can remember, I don't think any other Predator in the NECA line uses this combi stick design, and when I was looking back at the model in Predator Hunting Grounds, this is not what the combi stick looks like. So I'm almost pretty sure that NECA made a completely unique and original combi stick for this figure, which is pretty cool because, you know, they went that extra step rather than just copying someone else's design from Predator Hunting Ground or reusing a mold they had for a previous Predator figure. Granted, that's if no other Predator figure uses this combi stick design, and I don't think, like I said, I don't think in general, but I don't think any other figure in the NECA line uses this combi stick design. So taking it back and talking about the toy, the visuals for the combi sticks look great. The color palette is pretty simple, but that's not a bad thing. It's mostly made up of silver with some dry brush bronze tannish color, where most of the intricacies and line work can be found on the combi stick. So when it comes to addressing the sculpt work on the combi sticks, the one thing that they all share is the handle, because the handle doesn't move or change with any of the variations, and it looks really good. It has this very intricate pattern going on, and, you know, NECA really put in the effort and engraved all of that, and it just looks really good. I expect nothing less from NECA, to be honest. And then moving over to the blades, when it comes to the first pair of blades, if we're going up the rod from the handle, there is some line work there which looks really good as well, and the overall blade work or the sculpt work of the blades, whether it's the first pair or the second pair all the way at the end, looks really good. Again, I expect nothing less from NECA. The only thing I'd say is be careful when handling. You don't obviously want to break off these blades and have a broken combi stick. So for the third and final weapon included, we have the Samurai Predator's katana, and for the most part this thing looks really good. So starting off with the paint job, the color palette that we have here is some silver, some dark gray, some black, and some orange. Now I love how everything is being utilized, and it's for the most part accurate. The only inaccuracy for the paint job is the orange lights on the handle in game are red. Now this isn't hurting anyone, this isn't gonna ruin the figure, it's just something I noticed when comparing the in-game model to what NECA gave us. But overall the rest of the paintwork is fine. I have no issues with it personally.
personally. And then moving over to the sculpt work for the katana, and it is really good. There's a lot of different patterns and grooves and line work to be found on this design from the in-game model, and NECA did a really good job at translating that for the toy version. But despite how good the sword looks, NECA did forget to include one part of the sword, and that is this round part around the handle. As you can see on the in-game model, it's just flat out not there for the toy version. And why that's not there, I have no reason, but it is an inaccuracy, and I feel like it's fair to point that out. But let's not be negative Nancy's. Despite that, everything else, like I said, is looking good. I have no issues with it, and that also applies for the paintwork on the sword as well. And here we are at the turntable segment of the video, pretty much where I go over what I like, dislike, pros, cons, strengths, and weaknesses, stuff like that. Just give my general thoughts and opinions out for y'all to hear and give y'all something to bounce off of, and go down in the comment section below and get a conversation started. And I will most likely reply to y'all's comments because I obviously like talking about this stuff. And we kick off this segment by talking about this negative stuff, the sour stuff first, just to get out of the way, because I don't like dwelling on the negative any longer than I already have to. And I think we should start by addressing the biggest issue with this figure, as much as I love this figure, and that is the articulation. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not all of the articulation on this figure, but specifically the articulation in the elbow and knees. Now, like I said earlier, all articulation is important, but elbow and knee articulation is like super important, at least I think it is. And starting off with the elbows, he can't really do much with his accessories. Like, he can hold them with one hand, and you can have him hold the combi stick, like the extended one, with two hands, but it kind of looks awkward. Like on the box art, he is seen holding the katana with two hands. He can't do that. He can only hold the katana with one hand, and that really sucks because this is a samurai predator. You want to get him in all these different kind of like samurai-esque poses, and he can't really do that, and that kind of transitions into the knees. He has a terrible knee bend because the knee pads are on the knee joints. Again, I wish NECA kind of half-assed this and, just painted over the knees, or just, putted the pads on the front rather than doing the pads and the straps, because it does heavily hinder the knees for this figure, and, you can't do half the poses you would typically be able to do with a predator figure. And the only other quote-unquote issues I can think of when it comes to this figure are the two small inaccuracies with the katana, and like I said, those don't really ruin or break the figure in any other way, so it's not the end of the world personally, but it is something that is, I guess, wrong about the figure, so just, to throw it in. But again, it's not the end of the world. So when it comes to the good things about this figure, it's the visuals. This thing looks fucking awesome. You can even say that for the accessories. Figure accessories all looks awesome, and like, who wouldn't think a samurai predator would look badass? Like, it's a samurai predator. It's like they go so well together, and I think that the team at Predator Hunting Grounds did such a good job at making this design, and I obviously think NECA did such a great job translating that like on-screen appearance to this toy form. There's so much detail, and it just looks awesome. I tried my hardest to try and keep the visual presentation segment as tame as possible, because I can gush about this figure for a way longer time than I should be able to. And yeah, no, I feel like the articulation situation for this figure is disappointing, so I feel like the main selling point for this figure is visuals, and I feel like NECA 110% delivers on that. So I feel like this figure is made for one demographic, and that is for people who just love a badass looking figure. Like, if you just want to put him on your shelf, leave him aura farming, and never touch him again, or just put him in a few different positions every now and then, this figure may be for you. But if you're someone who loves toyography and wants to get the most mileage out of their figure or anything like that, you're gonna need to do some serious modification work to this figure, or just get a completely different predator figure that will pose the way you want them to pose, because it just kind of bums me out, the articulation situation on this figure. So again, if you want to aura farm, by all means. If you want more out of this figure, unfortunately, you're not really gonna be able to unless you put in the effort. So I think that's everything I have for the Samurai Predator today. If there's anything that you agree, disagree, you think I missed, something that you wish I talked about, please let me know. I love talking about this stuff, obviously, so I will most likely reply to y'all's comments. And if you did enjoy today's video, a like and a subscription would be greatly appreciated. And going back on the comment thing, you don't have to comment if you don't want to. I get it, it's a lot of effort moving those fingers, but again, if you do, I will most likely reply. And don't worry about the bell, because we both know that shit is broken. And if you did enjoy this video, I have a handful of other Predator videos, so you go check those out if you're interested. And I also look at other franchises such as the Alien franchise, so Alien versus Predator, all that good stuff, but also Halo, Star Wars, and a little bit of Warhammer. By that I mean I only have 2 Warhammer videos, but if any of that does interest you, you are more than welcome to go check it out. I would appreciate the views and all the feedback on that stuff as well. So with all that said, please have a great day and stay hydrated. It's important.